One thing I'd like you to take apart is man versus woman, the feminine and the masculine. Where do men sit on these ranges as opposed to women? Is there a balance there?
There's really no difference in the sense that there's not like there's more men at one terrain, there's more women at one terrain. It's just that the masculine and the feminine is playing out differently at each terrain. So when you're at the wheel-based terrain pyramid, there's a lot of power struggle between the sexes, and you get a lot of exploitation and sexualizing of people and exploitation, and it's really not necessarily a healthy dynamic of the masculine and feminine. And then you get to square the order-based terrain. It starts to be very much role-based. The woman is, traditionally the woman was the wife and the father was the provider. You start to get much more role-based stuff. At Diamond, which is where the culture is at now, the reflection-based terrain, this is where it's all being thrown up in the air, and we're all deciding for ourselves, what is my gender? I'm gender neutral. I'm gender fluid. I'm choosing this right now. I'm choosing that. I'm going to play with this for a few months. Now I'm going to change my sexuality again. It's all just like a big play of identity and choice, because there's no longer being guided by roles and what society tells us we should be doing. Then as you get to circle, the connection-based terrain, it starts to come back into like naturalness. And this is where I've got a lot of friends at Circle. And I remember when I was at Circle, it was all about like the healthy masculine, and men starting to speak their feelings and be more vulnerable, and women starting to notice that they disconnected from their heart and they were really in their masculine energy, and learning to like come back into their beingness and their softness and be vulnerable. And there's a lot of people doing men's groups and a lot of people doing women's groups, and everyone started to really find the healthy masculine and the healthy feminine. And so there's masculine and feminine every terrain, but it's just showing up very, very differently in how people are exploring it and how it's engaging it.
Terrains do alternate between masculine and feminine, outer and inner, collective and individual, and so that bears on, at this time we've got preponderance of the prevailing terrain at Diamond, so you see a lot of women struggling to have essentially identities as men, and they're also suffering the health consequences of not being in their femininity. Breast cancer is a huge epidemic, and other things where the feminine is being sacrificed because of the demands of the terrain as the prevailing terrain and what it's calling forward, because it's a more masculine terrain. So as you read the book and you look at the appendices of the different tables, you'll start to see the richness in the polarities and in the yin and yang that's playing out through all of this, and it's quite fascinating.
But definitely in terms of numbers, there's equal amounts of men and women. It's just that the energy is different and that's playing out differently.